the all-pervading also. Vasudeva, all-pervading. You know someone who is all-pervading? Only Krishna is all-pervading, and still in one place. Therefore, we chant before we read from Bhagavad Gita or the Srimad Bhagavatam, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 So text chapter 11, the universal form, text 53. Naham videna tapasa na danena na chechaya sakyevam vitu tastum vistavanasi mam yata. The form you are seeing with your transcendental eyes cannot be understood simply by studying the Vedas, nor by undergoing serious penances, nor by charity, nor by worship. It is not by these means that one can see me as I am. The purport by ЕС Bhakti Prabhava Swami, Srila Prabhupada ki. Krishna first appeared before his parents Devaki and Vasudeva in a four-handed form, and then he transformed himself into a two-handed form. This mystery is very difficult to understand for those who are atheists, who are devoid of devotional service. For scholars who have simply studied Vedic literature by the way of grammatical knowledge or mere academic qualifications, Krishna is not possible to understand, nor is he to be understood by persons who officially go to the temple to offer worship. They make their visit, but they cannot understand Krishna as he is. Krishna can be understood only through the power of devotional service, as explained by Krishna himself in the next verse. So, this is Krishna speaking to Arjuna. Krishna is saying, the form that you have seen. So, Arjuna has seen this universal form, which he found horrible, but he saw it, and he got special eyes from Krishna, transcendental eyes. So he saw this form, and he says, it's not by penances, charity, or worship that you can know me as I am. That's interesting. By worship. So then, what is the goal of all this book? What's the conclusion of the Gita? Who knows?
Surrender to Krishna.
Surrender to Krishna. Man mana bhavamat bhakto machi mam namaskar mama veshasa satyam te pratijani kriyusi me sarvata mam prachya mam kamsram vajantram sarvabhyo mokshisya me matcha. Man mana, always thinking of Krishna. And when you always think of Krishna, man mana, what is going to happen? Mat bhakto, you become Krishna's devotee. Man mana bhava mat bhakto. And what do you do as a devotee? Mat chai, you worship Krishna. And namaskar, you offer him respect. But first you have to surrender to him. Surrender, following his instructions. Otherwise you cannot become a devotee. You must follow his instructions. And the goal is to develop love for Krishna, bhakti. But can you develop love for one you don't know? It's difficult. It's not possible. You must know the person. So we must know first Krishna. And Krishna said, it's not by these means that I can be seen or can be known. But in the next verse, he explains how he can be known. He says, Bhaktiya Pananyasakam Evam Vidorina. It's only by undivided devotional service that you can know me as I'm standing here before you. Yatam Tastam Satatme Pavishtam Saparantapa. Only by this devotional service you can enter in the mysteries of my understanding. So you first must know who Krishna is. You must know who you are and what our relationship is with Krishna. Otherwise, can not be our relationship. That's called Sambandhagyan. But in the purport, but finally to know Krishna, you need this Ananya Bhakti. He will also say that further in Bhagavad Gita. Bhakti mama vijanti yavyasasmi tatamam tatpatoratavjate tat anantaram. Only by bhakti can you go back to the spiritual world. You can know me, and when you know me, you can go back to the spiritual world. Krishna said also before in Bhagavad Gita, Janna karma smedipam yomepeti tatvatyaktvayam punarnama naitimam iti sarana. So Krishna says to Arjuna, if you know me and my appearance and my activities, then you don't take birth in this world. So can the Jnanis go back to the spiritual world? No. Because they will realize Brahman was still outside. And the yogis? No. Because the yogis, they realize Paramatma. It's good to know that Paramatma controls everything in this world. Good. And what then? You stay here. Nothing happens. Only by Ananya Bhakti. Pure devotional service. But in the purport here, verse 54, Srila Prabhupada writes, one cannot even begin to understand Krishna if one does not take shelter of a bona fide spiritual master. But then the question is, yes, how to get this bhakti? And Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur has analyzed that in Madhurya Kanambini. It says it's not by performing pious activities that you can attain bhakti. Why is that? Because pious activities are activities of this material world. It's material. If something material, you cannot get something spiritual. It's not possible. It's true that when one is pious and so on, then one becomes more receptive for hearing about Krishna. But to get bhakti, that's another thing. That's another thing. Not so easy. So it's not by these activities. Because Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur concludes the course must be spiritual. Now Lord Chaitanya explains that a bit more deeper. He said, Brahmanda Pramiti Konya Vahyavan Jiva Guru Krishna Prasati Vai Bhakti Lata Beach. Brahmande, that's Lord Chaitanya's sense of humor. He compares the whole universe to an egg because it has the form of an egg. But he said it's the egg of Brahma, Brahma's egg. And then Brahmite, go up and down in that egg. Sometimes we are a demigod, sometimes a worm in stool, sometimes we are on the lower planets. That we go up and down as a Ferris wheel, up and down, so many births. But when one becomes Bhagyavan, one becomes fortunate, what happens? that Brahmanda Brahmite Konya Bhagavan Shiva, and then by the mercy of Krishna you meet a bona fide spiritual master. And the bona fide spiritual master, he gives you the seed of bhakti. Not yet bhakti, the seed. And then we have to water the seed by hearing, chanting, and so on. And then a transcendental plant will start to develop. And in beginning it has a creeper that and it has 2 leaves, and Subhada, and the other is Subhada means your life becomes auspicious, and the other is, I've got Sanskrit name, but it's Klesha Agni. It takes away all this stress, and then it continues further. So Lord Chaitanya said you have to become a gardener, because you have to take care of the weeds. If you don't remove the weeds, what will happen? That the little creeper, the small creeper, will be overgrown and die. So we have to get rid of the offenses, and then it will grow, and it will penetrate the coverings of the universe, go to the Brahmajyoti, to Vaikuntha, to Goloka Vrindavan, and there it takes shelter at the lotus feet of Krishna, where it offers its fruits of love of God. So that's the whole process. But Srila Vishwanath Bhakti Thakur says how to get this this seed of bhakti. Who will give it? That his conclusion is it's the Madhyam Adhikar devotee, the preacher. The preacher sees 4 categories, the Madhyam Adhikar. He sees the Lord and tries to develop prema, love for him. He sees the devotees and he tries to develop friendship for the devotees. It preaches to the innocents and avoids the atheist. Why does he not preach to the atheist? The Madhyamādhikāra. What happens if you preach to atheists?
We will be impacted sometimes.
Will?
We will be impacted by
Will be?
Impacted by them.
That's not really the reason. The preacher, it's an offense, yeah. So why is it an offense?
Because you say bad about it or not reciprocate.
Yeah. The point is, because they are envious of Krishna, they will start to blaspheme Krishna. And then they are further away from devotional service. Therefore he does not do that. There is another reason also in Bhagavad Gita says, one should explain the secret of devotional service only to my devotees and those who are not who are austere. So Krishna warns us, don't do it. And we have also the 9th offense against the holy name, to not explain the glories of the holy name to the faithless.
Yeah.
So that's also. But it's the Madhyamadikar, the preacher, who gives bhakti. So Krishna, he delegates the power to give bhakti to his devotees, to his pure devotees, to his preacher. He gives them the power to do that. Yes, that's important to know that the source of bhakti comes from the Madhyamadikar, who gives the seed. That of course then, yeah, but pure devotee can give blessings, and by the blessings we get on the path of devotional service. Even if you please a devotee unknowingly, Krishna will reciprocate with that and bring you in contact with devotees. Because that's the point. By the mercy of Krishna, we come in contact with Krishna's devotee. By the mercy of devotee, we get the seed of bhakti. So bhakti must come from bhakti, because something spiritual must come from something spiritual, not material. And that is important to understand. And then we have, of course, you have also Ajnata Sukriti, unknowingly pleasing a devotee. And that's interesting, because I see in my own experience, this was in 1981. I was in Belgium, in Antwerp, and I was, at that time I was 21 years old. I was a hippie at here till here. And I was in Antwerp with a friend, and we went to a folk concert and my friend, he was an artist. And there for the first time I saw a devotee distributing books. And I saw a grandma coming with her grandchild at her hand. And when she saw the devotee, she made a big turn about him, like, this is the devil. And I felt in my heart, this is unfair to treat this person like this. Why does he deserve such an unfair treatment? So in my heart I was defending that devotee. And then my friend said, who was an artist, said, these are the Hare Krishnas. Oh, I heard Hare Krishnas. Okay. Yeah, but they have very fine art. You should buy a magazine from them. So I bought a magazine from them, Back to Godit. But it was an edition in Dutch, the only edition ever they made in Dutch. But then, after that, I became a devotee after many years. But anyway, that's the beginning, because then later I met the devotees again. But this is this Ajnata Sukriti, an unknown devotional service, because Krishna is certainly reciprocated, because I was defending that devotee in my heart, because Krishna is in the heart. Of course, we get this seed of devotional service, and then we have to water it, purify our heart. When our heart is pure, then this love for Krishna will develop. Because when our heart becomes, the more our heart is pure, the more we start to understand Krishna. In the beginning we think we understand, but no. But there are examples, so many examples in the Bhagavatam, that prove that bhakti comes from bhakti. Narada Muni in his previous life, he was associating with whom? The Bhakti Vedantas, yes. So that's where the seed came from. And he was, of course, he was serving them, being with them, inquiring from them, and in 3 months' time, 3 months Chaturmasya, 4 months maybe, because after 4 months they left. In 4 months' time, he became very sober. His senses were controlled. He did not want to play like other boys from 5 years old too. And he became very sober and self-controlled. He attained practically liberation. Attaining liberation in 4 months, not bad, huh? Not 4 months he did that. Of course, then we know his mother went to milk a cow in the middle of the night when they left, and she was bitten by a cobra, left her body, and little Narada saw this as the mercy of Krishna, who made him free, and then he chanted the holy names of Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And he became thoroughly purified. But sometimes the way goes over, the way back to Godhead goes over many lifetimes. And so that was the case with Chitraketu. Chitraketu got the blessings of who? You know the story of Chitraketu, who could not get a son. He could not get a son, King Chitraketu. And he was lamenting, had so many queens and no son was coming. That would mean that his dynasty would stop. And that's a drama for a king. And he was morose, depressed. And who came?
Narada Muni?
Later, but before. Angira Muni.
Okay.
Angira Muni saw him and saw him depressed. He could see it at the index of his face. So he decided, I will not give him transcendental knowledge. He's too much in material misery, distress. In that position, you cannot understand anything. So he asked the king, what's the problem? And the king said, yes, I cannot get a son, and that's a problem. Well, I will help you, he said. And he performed a fire sacrifice, a yatra, fire sacrifice. And in the fire sacrifice, sweet rice was offered to Lord Krishna. And then he gave the prasad after the sacrifice to Chitraketu. And he said, yes, well, you give that to your queens, and one of your queens, and then in due course of time you will have a son. And the name of the son will be Harsha-shoka. Harsha-shoka. A son who brings jubilation and lamentation. So, and then the sage disappeared. Suddenly it disappeared. And then, yeah, he gave the prasad to one of his queens, and then, yeah, and he gave her the prasad, and then it's about 1 year later a son was born. And everyone was happy in the kingdom. Happiness, great happiness. And there was a festival and so many festivities. So his favorite queen, whom gave birth to Harsha-shoka, was Kata-duty. Kata-duty became by that the favorite queen of King Chitraketu. Now everyone was happy in the kingdom, not really. Because the king was giving all his attentions to Kata beauty and neglected all his other queens, and they became very envious. And they felt very unhappy. And one of these queens was so unhappy that she poisoned the child, and the child died. And when Chitaketi heard that, he fainted. And Kata beauty, she was lamenting and condemning Providence. Providence is so cruel. But then suddenly, who appeared? Narada Muni, together with Angira Muni again. He was also there. But, and when Narada Muni saw what was going on, he that the child was dead, and to Chitraketu, who came back to his consciousness, he said to Chitraketu that, oh, you should not lament for this temporary parenthood. And by his mystic power, the soul entered again in the body of the child. But then, by the mystic power, the soul was speaking, not identifying with the body. And Narada Muni said to the child that sat up, why did you leave? Look at your parents, what grief you have caused them. Why did you leave prematurely? And the child, or the soul, spoke, what do you mean? Which parents? I got millions of parents, I went to millions of births. Which parents do you mean? And then the child, the soul left again the body of the child, and the body fell down. And Chitraketu got the point. He got the point. Oh, it's all temporary here. I went to so many bodies. Am I still concerned with my children in past life and the life before and the life before? No. It's all temporary. So he understood. And then he decided to worship Shankarshan. And he went then, later, next life, he went to the Patal, I think, the lowest planet. And there you have Shankarshan, who is upholding the universe, and all the residents there, they are worshipping Lord Shankarshan with his many hoods. He was worshipping him, and by his worship he became a demigod. He became a Vidyadhara kind of demigod. And then he, at a certain moment, because he started to chant the names of Krishna, he started to travel with beautiful Vidyadhara women in a spaceship, from the spaceships from the heavenly planets. These are subtle spaceships. It's not like we know here in this world with fuel and so on. No. But he was traveling all over the universe, and while traveling they were performing Sankirtan. They were chanting the glories of the Lord. And at a certain moment, Chitraketu and his Vidyadhara women came at Kailash, and there Lord Shiva was sitting under a big banyan tree. That's they have the biggest banyan tree in the universe. It's described in the Bible, the biggest banyan tree. And he was instructing great sages. So Lord Shiva has two kinds of disciples. He has the spirits, the oblogins, those in the mode of ignorance. Is very merciful to them. But he has also great sages instructing in the science of devotional service. So I was sitting on the Vyasa-san, but Parvati was sitting on his lap. And with one hand he was embracing her, and with the other hand he was instructing the sages. and when Sita Ketu saw this, he was thinking, this is, wow, this is extraordinary. And he started to laugh. He started to laugh, and Parvati heard him laughing. And Parvati was disturbed. Of course, she is Durga. She controls the three modes of nature. That's best to not to have problems with her. And Sitaketa got in problems. And yes, she cursed him to become a demon in next life. But Sitaketa, when he heard that he was cursed, he came down from his spaceship, his Vaman, he came down and offered his respects to Mother Parvati and said, I accept your curse. And he smiled. And Parvati turned to Lord Shiva and said, I curse him, and he's not even disturbed. And Lord Shiva said, yes, these devotees of Krishna, whether they are in the heavenly planets or in the hellish planets, or they are in the spiritual world, they are always undisturbed. But then, in his next life, he became Vitrasura, a great demon, and he had to fight with Indra. And there you have this fight, but he was always absorbed, Vitrasura, inwards in devotional service and in love for Krishna. And Indra was only thinking about his temple, his heavenly planets, and his opulence, and protecting that. So they were fighting, and at a certain moment, Indra loses his thunderbolt, his weapon, and then Indra started to lament. And Vitrasura said, don't lament, that you have to do your duty. Like Krishna said in Bhagavad Gita, you have to do your duty. And he took up the thunderbolt and gave it back and said, oh no, you fight. And they fought, and finally Indra cut off his arms. But Vitrasura was still there. And then he tried to cut off his throat. And it took him 1,000 years to do that. But in the meantime, Vitrasura had already left for Vaikuntha, to the spiritual world. That Srila Prabhupada writes in the purport in the Bhagavatam. Yes, externally, Indra has got victory, but the real victory is for Vitrasura, who was a pure devotee of Krishna. He went back to the spiritual world, and Indra remains rotting here in this material world. So that's the story of Chitraketu, but it was also by the mercy of Angira Muni, Narada Muni, by whose mercy became Prahlad Maharaj, pure devotee. Narada Muni, but he's a bit an exception. is a Kepa Siddha. By the ardent blessings of Narada Muni, Prahlad Maharaj became at once a pure devotee. That wise ardent blessings. That's one of the ways to become a pure devotee, but it's extremely rare. Extremely rare, this capacity. It's not our method. Don't count of it. Prahlad Maharaj is got like that. Yeah. But then we are going to another example and discuss at the end. You have the Brahmins, the wives of the Brahmins. The wives of the Brahmins, you know the story from Krishna book, that coward boys went to beg for the ritualistic Brahmanas for food for Krishna and Balaram, and they said, no time, this is serious business, go away. But then they went back to Krishna, and Krishna said, yes, sometimes when you beg, you are refused, what can you do? But he said, go to the wives of the Brahmins. So they went to the wives of the Brahmins, and they had developed love for Krishna already. And they were very excited, and they started to cook. So how did they develop love for Krishna? What's their cause? From whom did they get the beach, the Bhakti Lata beach? Who knows? You read sometimes Krishna books? It's good to do in the evening. Then you dream of Krishna, and next day you think of Krishna when you get up. But don't know why, from whom they got the seat of devotion, from whom they got the blessings.
Is it from their husbands, by serving their husbands? That comes later, but it's certainly not by their husbands. They were not yet devotees, really. That was a problem. From whom did they hear about Krishna?
Was that from the marketplace where the Rajabasis came to sell something and
that's close.
There was some exchange?
It's from the Pulindas. Who are the Pulindas? They are the aborigines, the original residents of Vrindavan. And they were forest people. They were living from the fruits of the forest, and they were selling these fruits. You know, one of these Pulindas, forest women, came to Krishna when he was Damodar. Soon we have Damodar Mass. And was with a basket of fruit, and Krishna came out because he has seen how their parents had bartered fruits with rice. So he took a handful of rice and ran, and all the rice was practically out of his hand, but literally had, and this Pulinda woman filled his hands with. So they were pure devotees, these Pulindas, because they knew Krishna. They had seen Krishna in the forest. They are always in the forest, and Krishna is also in the forest, so they know about all these pastimes. They were always speaking about Krishna. And when they were selling their fruits to the Brahman's wives, they were speaking about Krishna. So from them they got the blessings, and that's because they developed love for Krishna. That's interesting. Yeah. So, but then, of course, these wives of the Brahmins got the blessings, and then when they had the opportunity to cook for Krishna, they cooked quickly many preparations and brought them to Krishna and Balaram. Krishna and Balaram was very happy.
But Krishna said, it's very commendable that you have acted out of love for me and made this. But now you should go back to your husbands and serve them. And you do your duty, your sadhana, you chant rounds, you are doing you hear about me, you discuss about me, that you worship my deity and so on. So he said, go home, do your sadhana and serve your husband. But they said serving our husbands be left, they wanted to obstruct us to come here. So how can we go back now? And Krishna said, don't worry, I will make arrangement that they will receive you nicely. So they went back to their husband, and their husbands understood our wives are more exalted, advanced than us. And by that they saw their wives as their goal. But that's what Krishna says. It's not by my physical proximity that you are exalted, but you go back to your duties and do your duties and do your sadhana, Vaidhi sadhana bhakti. And that's, he said the same thing to the gopis when they came to the forest running. When Krishna plagued the fruit, all the gopis came, and Krishna said, why are you coming? That you should be with your husband and your children. That's your duty. So why did you come? It's dangerous also in the forest. That and Krishna explains then karma yoga, how to do their duty and so on. But it didn't go well with the gopis. They didn't accept it. But generally, yes, that's the process. So how did Rukmini develop love for Krishna?
By hearing.
Narada Muni. He is there all the time.
Yeah, Narada Muni told her about Krishna. Yes.
Yeah,
And just by hearing about Krishna, she developed. So there you see also Narada Muni. And of course you have also the ladies of Mathura. And Krishna enters Mathura went the first time. Then all these ladies come to see him. Well, they are on the roofs of their houses, and they see Krishna. Well, they hear that Krishna is there, and they all stop doing what they are doing, and they run to the roofs to see Krishna. They were so attracted. Some were feeding their babies, put their babies down, and some were busy putting up makeup. They had one eye done, and they went. And another lady was in the middle of a marriage ceremony. And at the end of the ceremony, the wife has to circumambulate the husband 3 times. Just of that moment that she had to circumambulate him, she disappeared. That's what she was vanuit zich Bhakti Thakur's. And they went to the roof looking at Krishna with great love. So from whom did they hear about Krishna?
The merchandise from merchants of Vrindavan, like who they came to Mathura to sell things. I don't know.
Yeah, that's certainly also there. It's Pulindas, but also from these wives of the Brahmins.
Oh, okay.
And of course they heard about all the demons sent by Kamsa and how they were killed. They heard all these things. So that's, yes, we get bhakti by the mercy of devotees to water the seed that following their instructions. So that's where the source of bhakti. That was the topic of today. Any questions? No? Okay.
Thank you, Manas, for a nice lecture. So you said like we get the bhakti, but we have to water it. So what is the process of watering it, and how will you take care of the weeds? Like how will you remove the weeds? So
yeah, the process of watering the seed of bhakti is explained by Rupa Goswami in Nectar of Devotion. We have to follow 64 items of Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti. And there are 5 most important. That chanting the holy names, worshipping the deity, hearing the scriptures like the Bhagavad Gita daily, associating with devotees, and living in a holy place, a place where the deity is worshipped. And these are most potent. And we must do them every day. But if you follow Srila Prabhupada's morning program, you do them automatically. Because we have chanting of the holy names, japa, and kirtan, right? We have worship of the deity, even darshan of the deity is worship. We hear the scriptures, the Bhagavatam class, every day, that in the morning program, that we are in a holy place, in the place where the temple is worshipped. Yes, and so we have them all, association with devotees is there. So that's important, that we have these 5 every day, and then we will make advancement, and gradually by giving up our offenses. There are different kinds of offenses. There are the offenses against the holy name, and that's a problem. You can nothing do about it. Yeah? The advice is constant chanting, but we must change our heart. Our motivation must be right. We must set that right, and that's important. But you have also different kinds of apparat, in service apparat, or Vaishnava apparat, so we have also avoid that and behave properly. And then gradually our heart will become purified if we overcome these offenses and this apparat. That's our process. And when the heart is pure, then we become attracted to Krishna. Then this seed will flourish. We become attracted to Ruchi, like the ladies of Mathura. They were very attracted to Krishna. And then we will realize Krishna in our heart and enter. Then see Krishna's lila in our heart. Enter Krishna's aprakat lila. And then bhava. And then prema. Prema, yeah. That's as different stages that Pranaya, Mana, that Rag, Anurag, Sneha, that's the first, and Bhava and Mabha. So it's a whole process. But don't worry about these higher stages. That will come automatically by Krishna's mercy after your heart is pure. We should be concerned constantly about purification.
yeah.
That's important right now. Something else? Yes?
Thank you for the class, Maharaj. So you said devotees should not be preaching to faithless people, but when devotees chant Hare Krishna mantra on the streets in Harinam, then it is a sort of a preaching, and everybody hears that, and I guess everybody gets the blessing. How is that different from preaching to faithless?
Yeah, of course, the holy name is Krishna, but Krishna says, I invested all my potencies in my holy name. And we see that when you do Harinam, most people are smiling and happy, but some can be very inimical. We have seen that. But yes, that's a risk we take. That sometimes we are also, Srila Prabhupada says, holding open classes for the general people, and it's a risk. That it's a risk. But the devotee wants to be more merciful than Krishna, and therefore, but it has its reactions. But anyway, that's true. As devotee, more merciful than Krishna. That's interesting. Something else? Yes?
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you for your lecture. I have one question for the younger devotees who just joined the Krishna consciousness. I got it a little bit from Chaitanya Charitamrita that it was recommended to avoid the offenses while you're doing japa as a young devotee, because your memory and your mind still out there. It's recommended to read Chaitanya Lord Chaitanya mantra first and then go with the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Is it true?
Yeah, sure. Because Lord Chaitanya has brought us the Yuga Dharma, to the chanting of the holy name as a process for this age. So he introduced the chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra in Kali Yuga as the primary process. And who is Lord Chaitanya? He is Radha and Krishna together. Is Krishna in the mood of Srimati Radharani, and is very merciful, especially to the people of Kali Yuga. So we are hopeless cases in Kali Yuga. As explained how we are hopeless. In the Bhagavatam 1.1.10, Pranalpayusa Syabhakala Vasminjrena Manasmanamatayo Manabhak Upadrita. We are always disturbed, lazy, not in sense gratification, but in spiritual matters. Short-sighted, we see only the moment of enjoyment. Yes. So what is our hope? That our mind goes everywhere and we try to focus it, but then because it's too contaminated, the mind wants to think of something else. So we need mercy, and therefore, when you first chant the Panchatattva mantra, you get the mercy of the Panchatattva, and by that gradually we overcome these offenses while chanting. But yes, back to the Panchatattva to get their mercy. And then, so that makes it more easy to chant. It is said that when you chant the holy name of Gauranga, everything difficult becomes easy. But if you forget Lord Gauranga in this age, then even easy things become difficult. It was Jayapataka Maharaj, he used to call out Gauranga! So you call out to Lord Chaitanya for his mercy, and then hopefully you try it out.
Something else? Yeah?
So Maharaj, like you mentioned about Chitraketu son was died and somehow like Narayana brought the soul back to the dead body and he spoke something about who is father, like this story, the similar story happened in Chaitanya Leela,
Yeah.
right? Can you explain that? I forgot it, but I want
Yeah,
to.
and it's the same story. It was in the time that Lord Chaitanya, as his nocturnal pastimes of chanting the whole entire night ecstatically with his intimate associates, which were all Nitya Siddha devotees, eternal associates, in great love, the holy names of Krishna in Shivastakur's house. And Shivastakur, that one
That's
okay.
one evening, one night there was an ecstatic kirtan, and the son of Shivastakur died during that night, and his wife, what's the name of his wife again? Nanda, I forgot his name, but she started to cry. Yes. And but Shivastakur said, "We are most glorious. The Supreme Lord is chanting here, and he has heard it. So why lament?" But he did not want to disturb Lord Chaitanya in his kirtan. So that's a devotee. He only wants to serve the Supreme Lord. He does not want to bother the Lord for anything for himself. But somewhere or other, Lord Chaitanya is a silver soul in everyone's heart, felt at a certain moment that there was something wrong in the house. And he asked the devotees, what's happening? And the devotee said, oh, Shivastakur's son has died. And then he went to see the dead body, and by his mystic power, the soul entered again the body and it sat up. And I don't remember, but it's quite a similar situation.
Yeah.
Similar situation as with Chitraketu. And then after that, when the soul again left the body, the Shivastakur and his wife were happy and gave up all lamentation. So that's a very similar story. Chaitanya Chaitanya. Good. Thank you very much. Shantara Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki Jai. Prabhupada ki Jai.